happy Tuesday, 10 at 10. I am your host, Richard Charpentier, and I'm certified master baker, bakery scientist, and let's try to answer the questions. You know the format. Every Tuesday we receive questions where we try within 10 minutes to answer your questions. So let's get started. So first question we received today is from someone asking knowledge on croissants. Just wanted to know about the fat that is used in croissant and the folding too. I can't find a proper folding. So, and I had my good friend Mark also, who is a great talented baker, answer as well. And the key is to selecting a fat for lamination, which is basically puff pastry, croissants, danishes. It's the melting point of the fat is super important, and that's one thing. And also the fat solid content of your fat you're using. It should be basically around 82 to 85% solid, and makes a difference. If not, you have extra water and it's not going to give you the defined layers that you're looking for. When you eat a delicious croissant, you know, you want the flaking things to come around. And once you buy fat at the retail grocery store, it is about 80 to 82%. You have less solid. So you want something where you have less water technically and more fat solid. So you have great manufacturers who are selling, you know, margarine made for that, where it doesn't have to be full butter, but check with your local supplier to see what they have for you for lamination purposes. And in terms of the folding, you have different methods being used. You have the single fold method, you have the double fold method. So it's all about your process and what you're trying to achieve. You know, there's not one rule. It's about what you think is great for you. So please, you know, just, you know, read online and continue asking questions, but you will find different methods. But a great question. So now moving on to our next question. Would you recommend calcium propionate to spray on a yeast risen donut after frying? What would you approximate the shelf life of the donuts to be if I spray the calcium propionate? That's a great question, but again, not having all the details. What kind of sanitation program do you have in your donut facility after they're being fried? And because you can spray whatever, but if you do have a dirty bakery, it doesn't matter. It's about the mold count in your bakeries and how many times it gets handled and touched. And first, it starts with sanitation program and where you're storing your donuts and everything. You're spraying calcium propionate or spraying a potassium sorbate or sorbic acid solution. It's all about, and sorbic, from my experience, works best. The reason why you would not put calcium propionate into the yeast raised donut is to the fact that well, you can put it into the donuts. You can put a sorbate because it would affect the yeast activity. So you can either spray or put into your donut and see what gives you the best. In terms of what shelf life you're going to get, I would need to know, where are you in terms of shelf life now? Is this 2 days, 3 days, 28, 24 hours? And where are you trying to get? So spraying something on the top doesn't mean shelf life. Shelf life of a product means a great tasting product, means the start retrogradation, meaning your product is not getting stale, meaning it's mold free, meaning it smells good and it looks good. That's what shelf life is all about, and it takes several steps. It takes much more than spraying something on the top. So I hope, you know, it helps, but great question. So now moving on to the next question. How does potassium bromate associate with amino acid and its mechanism, and how exactly is the protein oxidized by the agent? So let's, I wrote some notes, and so hopefully it helps out. So potassium bromate, to start with, is an oxidizing agent. And just go on, ask Dr. Lin on Bakerpedia. There's plenty of great information on potassium bromate. You know, I'm not going to repeat everything that, you know, it's already there. So go there and check it out. And it's one of the best, was known as one of the best and cheapest dough improver in the bakery industry. It's been banned in many countries. We're still able to use it in the US. But again, you know, I wouldn't personally recommend it as we're moving towards clean label. And potassium bromate had a significant effect on food biomolecules, such as starch and protein, as it affects the extent of gelatinization, viscosity, swelling characteristic, as well as gluten proteins. It removes the sulfhydryl group and leads to the formation of disulfide linkages, and though improves the bread properties. So that's what we know about it. And again, this is very short, and you know, it has to be in more details. But this is a complex oxidizing agent. Check your regulation in your country to make sure it's not banned into your country, because again, I don't want to, you know, you have to check on that. And then, you know, but great question. So now moving on to last question on potassium sorbate. Any tips for switching from calcium propionate to potassium sorbate? I am using them in pancakes, and the switch that resulted in wavy products. So I think the leavening is unbalanced. I am using potassium sorbate at 56% of calcium propionate due to local legislation limitation. So thank you for sending your question. I'm not quite sure of what you're asking. I don't know what wavy products means. And are you using the potassium sorbate as a leavening agent? It seems like you are, because you're making a baking powder with it. And I'm sure, you know, because it says maybe, you know, turn into propionate. And just so you know that any sorbates or anything like that will also, to a small degree, affect your leavening system if you have some. So it's always something that is good to think about it. But in terms of you're using potassium sorbate at 56% of the calcium propionate due to local, I'm not quite sure exactly what it means. I would love to answer your question, and if it's something, please send a follow-up question so with a little more details, so I can understand and better, you know, address your question. But that's it for today. So thank you again for listening. You have a happy Tuesday, happy baking. And again, thank you again for your question, and we'll see you next week. Take care.